from the outside, you would think our family was doing great, and we're out in service, and we're at the meetings, and we're at the assemblies, and we're hanging with a lot of people in the congregation. But on the back end of things, we were experiencing a lot of abuse at home. Jehovah's Witnesses don't talk about this, but I had really bad anxiety. I was feeling very depressed. And then out of the blue, one of the sisters at the hall that I used in Menlo Park that I used to go to, she called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, I saw that you made an appointment for this, and if you don't tell the brothers, I will."
This is Seeds of Awakening, your home for higher frequency conversations. I'm your host, Amani Channel. I feature stories from XJWs and others who had spiritual awakenings. And today I'm going to take it back to my hometown of East Palo Alto, California, specifically the Menlo Park congregation, because I was able to reconnect with one of my childhood friends who now lives in Texas. But thanks to the internet, hey, you never know who you're going to meet. So her name is LaTrina Patton. I'm actually good friends with her family, but I had no idea about the things she was enduring while a Jehovah's Witness in the congregation growing up. So I'm going to bring her in and introduce you to her in just a second. But first, make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. It's all the things that trigger the algorithm. If you do nothing else, just smash the like button. All right, so let's meet LaTrina Patton right now. Like I said, she's a childhood friend. I've known her and her family for years, but I had no idea about things she had to go through and she went through before waking up. Okay, this is kind of surreal for me because I grew up with this guest that I have now. Her name is LaTrina Patton. She was raised in the Menlo Park congregation with me and my brother and family. Trina, welcome to Seeds of Awakening. Thanks so much for making some time.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
We were just saying before we started recording how long it's been since we've seen each other. I can't even imagine. It probably was like the 90s, I want to say.
At least.
hmm
So, or definitely early 90s.
So paint the picture. We're from the same city, but paint the picture of where you're from and how are you raised?
Okay. So, people that don't know, Amani and I were actually from the same congregation. Um, his family and my family were friends. And so we grew up in growing up together. My brothers. I have two brothers that were raised in the truth or congregation, I should say. And so you guys grew up with them and hung out with them. My brother, Therm, he still lives out there. And my other brother, he stays out here in Texas with out here.
So
So
Dayron is in Texas with
Dayron
you.
is in Texas, and my brother Thurman is in
Still in
Houston.
PA. He's still back
Uh-huh.
home. Yep.
Mhm. So grew up in the hall. I'm the oldest of six kids. I have a
hmm
stepbrother that's older than me, but he was raised in a different household. And I wasn't born in, but my mom got baptized about when I was about 2.5, and she was baptized when she was pregnant with my sister. And also remember your family as well. So you had a little brother that passed. I remember that, and that I
hmm
remember when he was a baby too. So
Yep.
that was crazy.
It was shortly after my mom started. It was right after she started studying, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, because we used to come over your house when we were little.
I
Because
remember
we used
that.
to hang with the Kellys too. So
Yep.
we're related to them. And you guys, I think you guys lived on the same street.
Yep. Hazelwood in the court.
Yep, yep, in the court. We used to play ball in the court, all that.
Yeah, I remember the situation where I hit Thurman in the head with the baseball bat.
Oh yeah, and he had to go to the hospital for stitches
Did
because
he?
he had a concussion.
I think I ran in the house. I didn't even. I was just thinking. I was like, I didn't even check on my boy. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
he
just
had
ran.
he had to be rushed to the hospital. He had a concussion,
Yeah,
and
I hit him hella hard, so that's not a surprise at all.
yeah. Remember, we used to have book study at the Kelly's house too.
Uh
This
huh.
when I was real little.
Yeah.
Um, I believe they moved. I think one of the daughters, she moved to Shasta or somewhere
Yep.
there.
Yep.
And
Rowena
yeah,
lives in
Rowena,
Shasta.
and her brother Ron passed a few years back.
hmm
And then the other brother Ron I know. But yeah, it was just we grew up in it, and um with all that, we used to go out and field service. We gave talks. We went to book study, theocratic ministry school. We were heavily involved in the congregation. Um, My dad was also baptized maybe a year or two later after my mom was.
Hmm.
My mom, she studied with a prominent sister in the hall. So that's how she got in, and then she brought my dad in after that. And um, from the outside, you would think our family was doing great, and we're out in service, and we're at the meetings, and we're at the assemblies, and we're hanging with a lot of people in the congregation. But on the back end of things, we were experiencing a lot of abuse at home from our parents because I think they just didn't know how to handle how to really like discipline and talk to the children like they were supposed to because of the fact that we were raised under this cult of a religion. On top of
Do you attribute to that, or it's just like the old school way of disciplining, like with
it
the?
was both
Hmm.
because they were definitely disciplined the old school way, and I'm sure they just definitely had trauma in their both sides
Right.
of the family. And then that came over to their children, and how they handled disciplining. Um, and at times it just went way too far,
Hmm.
you know, where we would be at the meetings bruised up, welted up,
Wow.
you know. I've had to escape a few times just running out the house from not getting trying to get hit. But I mean, you wouldn't think those things are going on because who can you talk to at the meetings to say, hey, I'm experiencing these things, and not
Hmm.
only that, but if you're a witness, you gotta be a witness everywhere you go. So that transitions into school as well. So, I had a hard time with it in school because I didn't want to, I didn't, because I didn't, because of the craziness that was going on at home, I would just associate my mind from, I would tell people I was adopted. I would tell people I'm not from here to,
Hmm.
they- you know, even though I look exactly like my mother, but telling people I'm
You
adopted.
do.
Yeah. So, and then my brothers, they had a hard time, the discipline was harsh at times, and we sometimes we took it out on each other because we didn't know how to problem, you know, six kids in a house, somebody gonna be fighting somebody,
Hmm.
at some point. But at the same time, we all love each other too, it's just like,
Right.
and trying to work through those things. I was bullied in school, um, having trauma at home. My brothers, they had a hard time dealing with it because, you know, I I just heard the news that they went ahead and okayed some type of education.
Yeah, the brothers say that it's now a personal decision to go to college or not, which I just got finished talking to my dad actually. So he had a lot to say about that and the beard issue and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
So
So my brothers got seriously harassed for that.
really?
And yeah, for trying to grow something.
Oh yeah.
And also in my household, because of how we were raised, college was never even mentioned. It was
Right.
never on the table for us. So when I was growing up, my idea is okay, I guess I got to get a job doing something, you know.
Mhm.
But it was never like, oh, let me see if I can take a course here. Or it was never said, okay, hey, you might want to pursue something else after this. It was always, oh, okay, are you going on service? What are you
Yep.
doing? Service this, service that. And I was just like, almost like, do you know how many alcoholics they created by having that rule?
Mhm.
And my brothers are included in that. All three of my brothers are alcoholics or recovering from it,
Right.
because there was things they wanted to do and they was like, no, 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 no. And I could see why it would drive someone to want to just drink themselves or do whatever to not have to, because now you're putting down their dreams. They go, they could have been something, like, instead of struggling.
Yep.
I just think that's just terrible,
And the
terrible.
other side of that is we're told to honor our mother and father. So there's the scriptural reason for like maybe not telling someone that your parents might be a little bit too physical with you, or you're not really
Right,
trying to break your parents' trust, that sort of thing too. So
right.
there's some
And
guilt. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you're being abused in some way, whether it be at the meeting and you can't sit still and your mom's taking you to the bathroom to, you know, take off her shoe and just wear you out, or you're getting pinched, or you getting, things like that. And I was like, that's abuse.
Yeah.
But into a Jehovah's Witness child, is like, this is just a normal, this is supposed to be normal, and it's not
Right.
normal.
Right.
Um, and so that can play on your psychological mind. I didn't know, because Jehovah's Witnesses don't talk about this, but I had really bad anxiety,
Hmm. Around
because
what?
always trying to be the best at something, always trying to show something that you may not always be feeling.
Hmm.
Um, and then you have their doctrine that puts a fear in you. Everything is all, when Armageddon's coming. And I lived through that whole 75 situation, because I was there, and
Right.
I heard people giving up their property and all this other stuff, thinking it was coming, and it just came and went. People just was stuck on stupid and just stayed, you know.
Yeah, people will continue to stay. I think there's always going to be a core group of people who don't leave, but there are others who will realize that maybe something else is going on, that maybe there's some deception involved.
I
Mm.
was I was raised about I was baptized probably like in between me having my son and my daughter. So
Okay.
um I'll probably say in the early 90s I got
Hmm.
baptized. Before that, I just grew up in it, and but I was just having so much of a problem, the situation with the hall, just trying to exist, because nothing was private for me, nothing was of my own. Um,
Hmm.
like I said, we grew up in a big family, 8 people, and then we also had other people living with us,
Right.
other witnesses, because my my family just believed in having other people live there. They were
Yeah.
going through something. So we always had people there, whether they was living in the front yard, backyard, in the house, and it was on a small house. So you have all these people there, and there's nothing for you.
No
There's
real
nothing
privacy. Nothing is really
no
yours.
privacy. You might be lucky to get the tub that day, you know.
Hmm.
So, and I just I didn't realize, because we don't talk about our psychological, how we're feeling. Nobody talks
Hmm.
about how they're really feeling. Everybody got to put on a show, you know. Like I was feeling very depressed, because you don't have no friends in school, right? And so when I was going to school, at that time, the only friend I had, I think it was on, I went to school with Rowena Kelly when I was elementary school. But aside from that, I didn't know
Who's your cousin?
yeah, aside from that, I didn't know anyone in school who I could associate with, because of course
They're worldly.
they're worldly. Now I knew people, I just couldn't like say, oh, that's my friend. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So like to this day, I can't say, oh, I have one specific, you know, girlfriend, ride or die in high, in any grade, because we couldn't form that.
Hmm.
And then you think that wouldn't that causes issues. If you have a hard time making friends, um, learning how to communicate, how to be with other people who are not of your same religion.
Yeah.
And then so I think what came to a head with me leaving, and the reason why I left the witnesses, um, was a couple of things that I experienced when I was younger. Um, because I couldn't have a best friend. Um, my best friend that I had formed in the 7th grade, who was also a witness, somebody snitched on us, saying that he just got in trouble for walking me home from school,
Right.
and it was innocent, you know what I'm saying? But somebody said something, and I could no longer have a friend, and that affected me, you know, and I never forgot that. And then when I was in senior years high school. This was like 89. I met my children's father, and he was actually from the Rebel City congregation. And his I don't believe his mom was I don't think she was a witness, but his father, who his biological father, who he had never met at that time. So when I met him, he had never met his biological father. But we came to find out he was also a witness in the Sacramento area. And he was in it for years till he passed. I think he was passed in his 90s a few years back. Um, and he was in the prison ministry. So he worked that for quite a few years, I remember. But yeah, so when I met my children's father, we started talking, we started dating. One thing led to another. We was together, and because of that, I was a really good writer. I could write down how I feel about things and just make it stick. So because you can't show how your feelings, you got to hide a portion of yourself. I felt that the best way I could express myself is writing my feelings down. So I did that. I kept a journal diary of how I felt, going through my experience and just being with my someone else who just understood me. And so I go to school, I come home from school, and I my mom's holding my diary in her hand, and it was a lock on it, so you had to like pry it open to get it open. And so come to find out, my sister had found it, gave it to my mom. She pried it open and read every last word of whatever I wrote about whatever. So she found out I was with my kid's father. Oh, so she said, I already made an appointment with you to go have a meeting with the brothers.
And were you baptized at this point?
Huh?
You weren't baptized.
I wasn't baptized.
Wow.
I wasn't baptized. I
She
was,
was so she was already ready to go snitch on you.
yeah, yeah, she already did it. It was already in the bag, meeting set, ready to go.
Oh wow.
And I said, why would you do that? I mean, would you want to talk to me before you put out my private information to people that don't even know me, haven't spoken to me? And this is like a intimate thing. You know what I mean? Like, when you want to have that conversation with your son or your daughter before you go telling a third party about anything that's been going on with you. And I was so done. I was so done. But again, at this time, I don't have a mind of my own to say, I don't want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't want to hit my mom on, because, I already know, like, that's a no-no, you know. So I'm going along with the situation. So I ended up meeting with the elders, and that was just the worst experience ever, having to talk to them about my intimate matters with my boyfriend. And I'm like, are you kidding me? They're asking me, how did you do it? Where did you do it? How did you feel about it? Did you do anything unclean? You know, and I was just like, that's none of your business. And because I didn't want to like go into detail about all of it, they were like, well, we're just going to put you on public reproof. Now, technically, they had no cause to do that because I'm not a witness,
Right.
you know, but they just wanted to prove a point or whatever. And they had a meeting with my boyfriend, and then he got disfellowshipped. So because of that, I was just so done. I was just like, I need to leave home because I have no privacy at all. Nobody cares about how I feel. I'm 18. I'm starting to like feeling myself like I need to get out of here before I go nuts. So
Mm-hmm.
I packed my stuff up, packed a couple of bags. I didn't have a suitcase. I didn't even own a suitcase. A couple of garbage bags, and just left. And that was in, when did I leave? 89. Left in 89. Um, Left there, and then I was like, I moved because I didn't have no place to stay. So I stayed with my boyfriend. And then his mom was just like, well, no, if you want to stay here, you got to marry him. And that wasn't my intent, but at the
What are you
same
going to do? Right.
right. So, because we are together. So I guess she thought, well, I guess that would be the next natural progression of things.
Mm-hmm.
But we weren't ready. Who's ready at 18?
Nobody.
Nobody. So yeah, we got married, and we're trying to get back in. We're still trying to go to the meetings. We're still trying to, study. By this time, I was like, okay, I need to get my act together. Maybe I need to start really like putting it in and trying. So I started studying with the sisters at the hall. I believe I might have I just got pregnant with my daughter. I think just got
Mm-hmm.
pregnant because I remember getting sick doing when she would come over to study with me. I would get sick. So, but ended up getting baptized, and it was not really any fanfare with that because I already had the trauma from the public reproof situation prior. But I'm doing it because I want to I just want to have a
Want to live
relationship
right.
with my family, and I
Yep.
want to live right, trying to. I'm married now, so there should be no reason why they obstructed me from coming back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he came back too. So we ended up um we left the Menlo Park, and we moved to Bayview, the Bayview congregation in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And we went there for a while, and then but my relationship with my husband was kind of off and on. We was going through things, and so I just decided, hey, I'm just gonna get my own place. And so I got a place, and I ended up moving to Mountain View. So, but I was still going to the other hall, you know,
In San Francisco.
right. So still doing that. And so with my children, I had my son, he had some issues when he was born, health wise, that I had to, deal with when he was born. And then I had my daughter, and then they were telling me that she might have like birth defects and things, while I was still pregnant with her. And it was a lot to deal with because I was just like, I knew at that point, I was just like, I really have a hard time carrying kids. I
Mm-hmm.
love them, but I don't want to bring a child here that might have issues that I know if I'm single, two kids is one thing, but three is a lot. So I was like, after my daughter was born and we went through all that, and she was fine, but I was like, I knew at that point that I didn't want to have any more kids at that point. And so I made an appointment to have my tubes tied. And then so we went about life like normal. We going to the meetings, we doing our thing. And come to find out, 9 months into after my daughter was born, um, I was sick. And I didn't understand why. And I was just like, let me go to the doctor and figure out what's going on. Went to the doctor, and he told me I was pregnant with another child.
After you
And
got your troops tied?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And that was the worst thing I could ever go through, seriously, because I mean, who wants to have that happen, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a lot to have to deal with because that was what I was trying to prevent, you
Exactly.
know? And I talked to my doctor, and I was just like, I love kids. I really do, but I just can't do this right now. And in my mental health, because I already went through so much in my childhood, I already know I suffer from anxiety. I already know that my prior children have possible health issues. And I already have my tubes tied. So am I supposed to obligate myself for the rest of my life for something that I didn't choose to have happen to me? And that's a hard decision to make.
Very hard.
Very hard. And I had to say, I had to make the hardest decision I ever made and say that, I didn't want to go through with it, you know. And of
Sorry,
course
yet
go ahead.
I was going to say sorry you had to go through. That's a tough decision to make. It
It
had to be
is.
very difficult.
It was, and I didn't have anybody to talk to. Who am I gonna talk to? You know? Um, that was tough, and so I ended up making an appointment to go ahead and, at that time, it was still, legal to do that, and so I made my appointment, and then out of the blue, one of the sisters at the hall that I used in Menlo Park that I used to go to, she called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, I saw that you made an appointment for this, and if you don't tell the brothers, I will." And I was like,
Snitch culture.
"Snitch, snitch,"
Hmm.
and I was just like, "Wow." So on top of me dealing with all that, now I'm dealing with this. So I'm like, okay, we talk about this? Because this is a lot for me. And you coming in, so can we talk about this? So we make a plan for her to come to my place, and we sit down in my living room and we're talking about it. And I say, hey, look, I don't think you really understand my situation and what I'm going through. You're just making assumption by what I've set an appointment for. You don't understand you don't understand. Now, I didn't want to go all into detail about it because again, that's not
Right.
her to even be coming at me to tell me that she knew about the appointment was a
None
violation
of her
in
business.
the
Yeah.
first place. So I said, so she goes, "Oh, you don't have to give you can go ahead and have the baby. And me and my husband, we'd be glad to adopt it." And I was like, "What makes you think I would want to do that? Number one, I know your family. Number two, they're gonna ask you where you got this little baby from.
Hmm.
How are you gonna explain that to the hall?" And then she was like, "Well, me and my husband, we're having a hard time conceiving. That has nothing to do with me." But for her to come at me like was just like, I have no privacy. My information has been compromised, everything. So I wasn't gonna go that route because that made no sense to me. And like I said, she was coming at me crazy. So I went ahead, I had to in that appointment go find another doctor. And now mind you, it was gonna be covered under my insurance. So I wouldn't have to pay out of pocket. And I had to go out of my just so my
Network.
information will stay private, just
Right.
so I can go and handle what I need to handle with what I had going on.
Hmm.
And I was just like, wow. So with all the trauma that was going on, like I said, I don't know who made the appointment for the brothers. I don't know because I was just so out of it. I don't know if I called and who called. Somebody called and made an appointment with them. So I was just like, well, here we go, because I'm already knowing what time it is with that.
Right. And
The-
then this time you're baptized, you're one of Jehovah's Witnesses, so you kind of knew what was going to happen, obviously.
But there was a part of me had to see it through because I had to see what it was given.
Hmm.
So I go to the meeting and I'm being heartfelt. I'm explaining exactly what happened. Look, I did X, Y, and Z to prevent this. I didn't want this. Of course, oh man, they're not trying to hear a woman what she got to say. So it's just like, oh, that's all they know. That's what they've been taught or disfellowship, you know, no guidance, no feminine energy,
No help.
no help,
Hmm.
no nothing. I didn't even get a referral. you know? And I was just like, I said this after I left that meeting, after they did that, I was like, I told myself I will never step foot into another hall ever, ever again,
Hmm.
you know. And I was like, I'm never gonna, that was the last time I went to a meeting. That was in the 90s. That's 30 some years ago. Not,
Hmm.
and that was the best decision I ever made. Best decision.
So we're talking to LaTrina Patton, a young lady who I actually grew up with. Thanks so much for spending a few moments with us. So at this point, once you had this procedure, I guess you were disfellowshipped after going through this with the elders. What you end up doing then?
I decided I was gonna move because I didn't feel comfortable staying in the area, knowing that I was gonna get shunned by people I knew out there. So I gave up my apartment and I ended up moving to Sacramento area with my husband. We eventually separated and we divorced. And I ended up staying in Sacramento area and I raised my kids there. And he ended up moving to Southern California. So, um, we had to go through divorce, custody. That was really hard. Had to hire attorneys for all that. We ended up figuring it out, but we ended up driving. We ended up driving halfway to Southern California to be able to have, see him to see the kids. So we did that. Um, and I just raised my kids out there. I ended up joining because I was, I'm new on the streets and trying to figure it out. So I left Joe's Witnesses and I found a church home initially in Sacramento. Joined the choir there. Stayed there for a few years, and I ended up leaving there and going to another church, prominent church. I think it was called Center of Praise in Sacramento. And I joined the choir. I joined the praise team. I joined a gospel group called Roland Pollard and Friends, and we toured all the churches and sang all the songs and put out two or three albums. And through all that, it was fun because it was something completely different than what Witnesses did, and
Hmm.
where you can praise God openly for one, sing different songs for two, and it seemed like it felt more
There's
heart.
probably more. There's more spirit at other
Yeah,
churches and
yeah. Now
praise teams, a
you
little
got
more
the
energy.
whole spectrum, because I made it a point to try to see if I could just join a non-denominational something that just was open to pretty much anyone who was willing
Hmm.
to be open to it. So that worked for me for quite a few years, and then I got to a point where I just had went through to enough church meetings, enough, and then sang enough songs, and I just was like, I'm done. I think I'm done with church.
Hmm.
I was it fed me for a while, but then I was like, I need more. I need more. And then I just started looking into other things. I started studying physics, quantum physics. I started studying all kinds of spiritual, esoteric stuff, learning about crystals, learning about energy, learning just whatever I could get my hands on. That's what I learned. And I haven't been back, I haven't been to a church in years. And I was just because I was like, I feel comfortable with myself. I know who I am spiritually. It took a long time to figure it out because when you're raised in this, in a cult like that, your mind is not your own, and you have to figure out who you are first of all, and that's tough
Hmm.
because if you're taught to just give yourself, give, you don't have time to know yourself, you know. So
And you're so busy going to meetings, going out field services, doing the routine things. It's like you have no time to think, really.
mhm. And if you notice, when a lot of people left is during COVID because they didn't have that same routine. They could have time to stop and think, you know. And so that's why I think they scrambling now trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
They lost so many people, they losing it people in droves. And I'm glad about it. I'm glad about it.
Why do you say that?
Cause I just know they've hurt so many people by their teachings that people have died. I almost died by my own hands as well as my family's hands, you know?
Oh, suicide attempts I was talking about.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Uh, yeah, go ahead. Do you want to talk about
I'm a
what
teenager, I
happened?
don't, I didn't know what depression was. No witness talks about depression. No witness talking about anxiety. Nobody talks about how you're getting, beat at home for one thing or another, or you're getting treated a certain way by your parents, but you want us to come into this religion so I can perpetuate it to my kids. Mm-mm. And I was
Mhm.
just like, I just refused. I was like, I got to draw the line in the sand sometime, somewhere. So I made sure that I did not raise my children in that. Now they do have some, they know who Jesus, all that whole storyline, but I never mandated, never made it to where you have to do X, Y, and Z to be a part of anything. It's your choice to choose. Um, and they made their own choices, and I'm glad about it because they got to do things I didn't even get to do. They went to college. My son went into the Air Force. He's a veteran now. He done got a secondary career. My daughter went to college, got her degree, then went and got a secondary career, and she's an esthetician. Who would have thunk it? Now, me growing up, that wasn't even a possibility, you know?
So you've been able to break the chains though with their children where you weren't passing on the legacy of the abuse and of
Right,
the yeah, and they were able to go to college and have a different future than you
right.
had.
Because I wanted to tear down those stereotypes of, oh, the military is bad. My son went into the military. I
Mhm.
encouraged him. He picked what he wanted to get into. He needed to pick the Air Force. I drove him to the office and say, this is who you need to talk to where now he has a pension, you know,
Yeah.
that's for life. And and then the secondary career, he got his full degree. Both my children have degrees. That one is unheard of.
Well, congratulations on that. That's huge news,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. So for them to, just I just realized when they put out this whole thing with the education thing, I was just realizing how, I want to say, dumbed down.
You can say it.
Yeah, dumbed down they make their people so they don't go anywhere.
I was watching that video of that update, and it dawned on me. The brothers talk to people like they're Mr. Rogers. It's like Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. Like they're very stylistic in how they speak to their members. It's
Mhm.
almost like they're talking to children, almost like the way they communicate.
Yeah, and if you notice, they talk real slow.
Hmm.
It's kind of like in a hypnotic way, and
Yep.
you got to sit there and stay focused on what they're saying. You get hypnotized by that. You don't
Hmm.
think so, but they've been doing that for years.
Yep.
You know, and then on top of that, they were like, oh well, we can take reoccurring payments for. I was like, when did y'all start doing that? I said that's what they want. They want your bank account.
That's all they want. Yep.
They want reoccurring payments. I mean, when that person died, if a family member don't step in, they can just keep withdrawing money,
Hmm.
withdraw money. If somebody is not over their accounts or in their affairs,
So where are you now spiritually? Sounds like you did some introspection. You kind of like explored things. Where are you now?
I am free. I'm at peace with myself, and
Hmm.
I think because I just chose to know that once I got to know who I am, and I realized that I'm a spiritual deity and it's in my own right, I have power to do whatever I want. I don't have to answer to these men in New York. And who are they to tell me, a black woman, to do anything? You know? And I was like, I gotta stand up, find my voice to be able to speak about this stuff and be able to tell people, hey, look, it ain't all roses. It's really difficult for a child to be raised in this religion.
Hmm.
And I'm glad for the ones who are waking up and seeing that, hey, I can choose a different path. I don't have to, you know, because God, if you're gonna serve a God that's gonna keep families together, that's gonna enrich your family and your family's life. This Jehovah's Witnesses it just seems like, and the families we grew up with, so you see the damage is done.
Yep.
It's done terrible damage. Even just the ones that we went to the hall with back then, just terrible.
Hmm.
Some of them ain't here no more. Some of them turned just alcoholics. Some of them is homeless.
Yeah, our country doesn't even exist anymore. So that's
Doesn't
like,
even exist. And I was out there a few months ago. I have no, I didn't even want to go down that street to even see if it was still there or not. I didn't care.
oh, to see if the building was there.
Yeah, I don't even want to go down the street. That's how traumatized.
Yeah, I think I went once after I graduated from college, and then I've never been back after that. And after
Yeah,
that, they like sold the hall off, and there's the whole controversy. So
yeah,
yeah, I'm pretty much done with that life, as it sounds like you are too.
yeah. I was done 30 some years ago. So, you know, people just wrote me off. I guess, once they write your, say your name out loud, it's over with. But
Hmm.
I went on to do bigger and better things. And I did crazy stuff happen to me. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. But I had the right to make a choice. I mean, I have the right to make those
Make
choices. I
decisions
have
for
the right to
yourself. Yeah.
fail. I have the right to get back on my feet and try it again. Whereas that religion does not allow you to do that.
Hmm.
You know.
So, how's your relationship with your family now?
Um, my relationship with my brothers and sisters is good. Because I never lost touch with them. Uh, like I have one sister, she lives out of state. She lives in Virginia. I have a brother that lives out here. I have a brother and two sisters that still live in Cali, and we still talk. Now, my parents, um, it's difficult, but they hard pressed in it, and they don't even want to have a conversation to say, they don't even want to have a conversation to tell them anything different.
Hmm.
And it's frustrating, you know. Um, but life goes on. My one monkey don't stop no show.
Hmm.
So, and I made the best of my life because they tell you, oh, you're the spawn of the devil, and because you speaking out and you saying this and that. I'm just a woman.
Rebellious and
Yeah, and
a
I'm
Jezebel and a spiteful woman.
all of that and then some.
Hmm.
Some people might say my story is boring, but at the end of the day, I came through it because I know there's a higher power. I know there's a source.
Hmm.
In all honesty, I wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for something higher that I know that I can call on any time of day.
Hmm.
And I know that things are gonna work out in my favor, and I don't take on that bad energy, you know. When I walk in a room and somebody's turning their head or walking out, I have had all that,
Hmm. Well,
you
it's so
know.
good that you've kind of come out of that cloud, that you're now kind of free thinking and
Yeah,
independent on your own.
yeah, and that's the thing, when you come out of this, it's learning independent critical thinking so that you don't get caught up in something else, because it's easy to go from one cult to the next because you're not sure, you know.
Yeah.
But you got to do your critical thinking, and
Which the brothers do not always want you to do, like no reading any other material, don't watch a video outside of what's on JW.org.
well, that should be a red flag in itself.
Yeah.
If you got an entity telling you the only thing you can read is their material, and you can't, and if you take just one number, 607, and dispute it,
And do the math. And do the math.
do the math, that in itself is a problem. So we didn't even talk about all the other stuff. And then, you know, once I really did my deep homework about this religion and found out the symbolisms that they put into the videos for the kids, the
Mm,
Masonic stuff they put in the videos,
mm,
Saturn stuff, Masonic stuff, and it's all laced in. You don't think they're doing this, but I even watched a video where somebody had picked out. they used to put it in the magazines. So it was subliminal, like, with the dollar bill.
Hmm.
And, you turn it a certain way, flip it the pages a certain way, you can see symbolism.
Yep.
The same thing with that. Now, once I was like, what kind of religion did they have us in?
Yeah. Really in the clouds, not really knowing, just sort of falling blindly.
Yeah, yeah, and I hope that more people wake up to it. I know more are,
They
and
are, yeah, they are. I mean, you can't really wake people up. I mean, you can, like, there's some people who say that you have to be very subtle in your questions, how you pose your questions to people. But at the end of the day, people need to wake up. They'll wake up on their own time. Like for
right,
me,
right,
after my dad went through what he went through, and I kind of was just meditating, and it kind of came to me. There's other ways of thinking. There's other information that's
yeah,
out there, and each person has to explore and find it for themselves.
yeah. And then the I guess what happened afterwards. I guess with they found out that when the whole controversy with the hall closing in the first place,
Hmm.
and they found out that I guess because you had said something in your video that was interesting. You said that your dad used to do the books for the hall, right? And he said that when he was looking at the numbers, they wasn't adding up. Well, you're
Yeah.
not the only one to say that.
Oh,
You're not the only
really?
one to
I
say
didn't
that.
even think about that.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a lot of embezzle. Some stuff was going on, and
Shady stuff going on.
it's been covered on other channels, but
Yeah, I saw some videos about it.
yeah. So it's just stuff like that. It just makes you realize that I made the right decision and going on about my life in a different way.
So let me ask you this. I asked some general hot seat questions to all my guests. I think this is a good point to kind of dive into them. What is your definition of a spiritual awakening?
Spiritual awakening for me is it happens. It can happen in a different ways, but a spiritual awakening for me is like when you're going the extra mile. So you got that thought in your head, like, I'm questioning something, and you go the extra step to actually look into it and research it for yourself, and then you create your own narrative based off what the research you do. You're not taking somebody's word for it. That's when you become awakened to certain things, and it'll take you in different directions if you let it. But if you don't, you won't be awoke to nothing. You'll be asleep.
True enough.
Mhm.
Next question is, what is the most valuable lesson that you've learned in life so far?
To trust my intuition, to know that I don't necessarily have to serve something in order to give value to something. You know, um, I'm good at knowing that there's something way more than what I'm still learning. That it's a lifelong thing that you're learning, that there's something even more beyond what you see. Is something more beyond Christ. There's something more beyond the galaxy. There's something more beyond that, and that's what that's what I want to know. I want to know more and more and more. If you get stuck in that square, that Saturn square, you'll never see nothing.
Hmm.
So I'm thankful that I had a mind to, and I think that helped too, because you want to grow as a person. You know what I mean? You don't want to I don't want to stay stagnant.
Right.
And people grow at different levels, so my growth may be different than somebody else's. People may say what I'm saying, oh, she's lying. She's No, this is my truth.
Yes, you have your stories, your truth.
That's my
That's all
truth.
that matters. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. And as long as I'm happy, I'm not worried about somebody coming to my door asking me they want to judicial me anything. I'm good.
I just wouldn't even show up. I'd be like, you guys must be
Right.
thinking that I'm like on some okey
I'm
dokes.
calling the police.
Exactly. It's like,
Yeah.
who are you to tell me, to judge me, or it's all good.
Right, right. But the only judge I have is me.
Hmm.
And if I need to talk to my higher power, I turn this computer off and I'll be right there.
Yep.
Um,
Last question, Trina, is if someone was kind of coming to you and sort of giving you signs they're going through a spiritual awakening, what would be your best advice to help them get through it?
well, I think you just have to do your own thing. You have to do what makes sense for you. Everybody's awakening is different. The way I woke up, maybe somebody else wakes up differently. But
Mhm.
just know it's an awakening period. You're awakening to new ways of thinking, new ways of looking at something. Um, when you take that red pill and you decide that that's what you want to do, it's gonna rock your world. When you finally do discover some things, you be like, man, did I really believe in that? Oh, okay. Well, I can change that. I don't have to stick with this for all my life. If I choose to believe in Buddha one day and Jesus the next, that's my option.
Or both.
Or nothing at all. It's
Mhm.
my option to do so. Um, and I think religion in a lot of ways has hurt people. So I think now that people are seeing what it's really doing, they're coming out of it and making different choices. So bring the same hurt and craziness to the next generation of kids.
True enough. True enough. Well, LaTrina Patton, I want to thank you so much for spending a few moments for us being able to reconnect here. And good luck with everything that you have coming to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it and good talking with you.